Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Of course, as we all know, the Canadiens won their first round matchup against the Tampa Bay Lightning in 7 games, and therefore the Canadiens have another playoff matchup coming up in the second round as they advance. We're playing the Buffalo Sabres in that second round here, so we're going to kind of look a little bit into that series as a whole, kind of check out what's going on there, see what what we're up against, so to speak, and what the Canadiens are going to need to do, what they might need to change a little bit if they're going to, advance into the conference finals here, beating Buffalo in the second round. Looking first at the season series in the regular season, it was a split series, 2-2. All 4 of those games ended up going to regulation ends there. No overtime games, which is actually pretty impressive considering the Canadiens having a pretty good history of going to overtime in the regular season there. So obviously it's good to see that. Obviously it was 2-2. We get the first win of that series all the way back in October, a 4-2 win. We lost 2 in a row in early January against the Buffalo Sabres, 5-3 and then 4-2. And then the last one was a 4-2 win against Buffalo in the last day of January 31st there. So yeah, a very split series. I remember thinking, back in that January stretch there when we lost 2 games within a week span against Buffalo, I remember thinking that Buffalo was very much a contending team. They were really, taking to us. It didn't really feel like the Canadiens had a whole lot going in those games against them. So it'll be interesting to see, how we look against them now. Obviously, it's been a number of months since the last time we played them at all, but since those 2 losses that we had within a week span there, obviously with it being only like a week or so long, it's obviously not indicative of what our entire season looks like or how we played against Buffalo the entire season. But I think I do remember in that little stretch of time there, it was definitely a feeling that Buffalo was just a little bit better than the Canadiens overall during that stretch, and we really had to work very hard to win in that January 31st game, the last of that series there. So those 3 games within January against Buffalo were definitely hard fought. That Buffalo team is very, very strong on all ends of the ice. They've got good goaltending. They find ways to score. They have good forecheck, all that kind of stuff, which is all very reminiscent of how Tampa played against us as well. So not at all surprising, and I would expect to see that same effort, if not more, as we go into the series starting tomorrow. Looking at their head-to-head records going into the playoffs specifically, Montreal is kind of, in the lead a little bit. Their power play is significantly better than Buffalo's. They're the worst power play in the playoffs so far with only 4.2%. I think they only had like 1 goal in the entire series against Boston there, whereas Montreal 4th best with 19.2%. I haven't thought that that Montreal's power play has been great as of late. I think they definitely had a hot start, obviously with Slavkovsky's 3 goals on that power play. Started them off pretty well in game 1 there, but they kind of struggled a little bit. Obviously, Tampa Bay did their film homework a little bit and kind of understood where they needed to be to shut down our guys. Cole Caulfield was shut down pretty significantly throughout the entire series. He only had 1 goal in that whole series there, so it'll be interesting to see how Buffalo is able to shut down Montreal's power play, hopefully a little bit differently. Hopefully we can get some different looks as well. The penalty kill there, 87.5% for Buffalo, so they did a nice job shutting down the Boston power play during that first round series as well. Our power play not too bad, penalty kill not too bad either. It is 11th in the postseason there with 82.8, but still over 80%, pretty solid there. Face-offs is where we're really dominating. We have 55.6% to their 43.8%. I think definitely late in the series against Tampa is where we really shined in that face-off percentage as well. I think game 6 or 5 or something like that, we had a very significant win rate versus Tampa Bay. I think we were like 66 to 33%, somewhere around there in terms of face-off wins there. So if we can continue to make that work both offensively and defensively, it'll work out well, I think, against Buffalo, who's only got 43.8%. 6.8%. They're actually the worst team in the postseason in terms of face-off win percent. So that'll help us out a little bit if we can get guys like Jake Evans continuing to win big face-offs for us, and Nick Suzuki in the offensive zone, all that kind of stuff. They did score a good amount more than we were able to. I think partially that's due to the fact that we were playing against a very good shutdown team. The Tampa Bay is more than just an offensive team. They did a very nice job of shutting down our guys when need be. They got a lot of guys who pride themselves in being able to do that. So that really helped them out, and obviously Andrei Vasilevsky is one of, if not the best goaltender in the NHL right now. That does not help when you're trying to score goals against him. I think by his standards, I don't even think he had himself like the best season or the best series that he could have possibly had. But there were definitely moments where the Montreal Canadiens definitely could have scored some goals that Vasilevsky made some huge saves on to deny the Canadiens there. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that works as well, considering the fact that we're more than likely going to be playing against Alex Lyon. He had a 3-1 record in this postseason with a .955 save percentage, only 1.14 goals against there. UPL for Buffalo did not exactly have as good of a record. He had a 4.19 goals against and an .825 save percentage there. So I think it'll be likely we'll see a Lyon there, who I believe was a Carey Price fan. I think I've heard that before growing up or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays against a team that maybe he watched a lot growing up. But either way, it'll be interesting to see how Lyon stacks up against what Vasilevsky was able to do in the first round. If the Canadiens find it a little bit easier, maybe even more challenging to score goals against him. Obviously, Dobesh, we don't even really have to talk too much about him. .923 save percentage, 2 goals against average, and a 4-3 win rate there. He played all 7 games and played phenomenally in all of them. Obviously, Lyon's stats a little bit better there, but I think considering the fact that Tampa was a very, very solid opponent. He didn't really let in that many goals per game, only 2 against per game there. I feel like we can be pretty happy with our goaltending matchup. I think Lyon, as I mentioned, is going to be a formidable opponent there. He's going to put some pressure on the Canadiens. He's going to make some big saves throughout this series, so we're going to have to be prepared for that and put pucks on net too. I think obviously we're not going to want a repeat of that Game 7 effort with only 9 shots on net in the entire game. Obviously, I think there's a little bit of luck involved there in getting that win despite that effort in terms of shots on goal. We're going to probably want to get more shots if we're going to want to beat Alex Lyon in a 7-game series here. But, it'll be interesting to see what the changes are, how the Canadiens offensively are able to produce versus how they were in the previous series there. I think, as I mentioned previous times there, Tampa did a really nice job, especially with our top unit, our top lines, top power play, all that kind of stuff. Tampa did a really nice job of shutting down those guys. Again, like Safkovsky got that one game with the hat trick there, but didn't score a goal throughout the remainder of that series. Cole Caulfield only 1 goal. Suzuki only 1 goal, and it came in that Game 7 deflection. So they did a very nice job shutting down our top lines there. Some of our top guys had a really hard time scoring throughout that postseason, or throughout that series there. So it'd be interesting to see what Buffalo is able to do to provide that same sort of pressure on that line. And I think it might even be a little bit easier, in my opinion, just based off of what I know about Tampa defensively versus Buffalo. I think it might be a little bit easier for that top line to find themselves in open spaces. Not to say that Buffalo isn't as good of an opponent. I think they're very talented, of course, but I think it'll be at least a different look for the top line as they try to, establish some offense 5-on-5, and hopefully we can kind of exploit their weaknesses a little bit and try to find a way to get those top guys going there. Obviously, on the other side of things, like the Buffalo Sabres are very well rounded in their entire makeup. There, Tage Thompson, very, very talented. He's leading the team in points with 7. Alex Tuch there, he's got 4 goals, so definitely some threats threats all throughout the ice. Zach Benson, another guy who is doing a nice job for them. Rasmus Dahlin, we know how good he can be from the back end as well. So they definitely got some threats. I don't think it's anything that the Canadians can't handle by any means. I think the Canadians are well equipped to do well in this series overall here. But it'll be interesting to see. Like it's a different look, right? We're playing a different team with different kind of style of play, different coaching, different the systems, all that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how we kind of change our lineup to respond to that, and how we're able to kind of navigate that, because I think at the end of the day, I think one of the biggest keys for this series as a whole is that the top guys for Montreal on 5-on-5 ice need to find a way to start getting going here. I think the majority of this first round series that we played against the Tampa Bay Lightning was carried by our bottom unit guys like Kirby Dach and Josh Anderson, Zach Bolduc, Texier. Those kind of guys were really carrying the mail, especially early on in this series. But that's only going to get you so far. You're not going to be able to go all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals just riding your bottom six guys. Eventually, your top guys, the guys who get paid the most amount of money to be there, they need to show up offensively, especially on 5-on-5. And that's something that if the Canadians want to win this series, they need to get Cole Caulfield scoring goals. They need to get like in general, they just need to get to put themselves in positions where they're getting open ice, they're getting opportunities to make the plays, and they're not getting shut down every time they're out there. I think especially with Cole Caulfield, I felt like there were a lot of times where Cole was in a position where only thing he could do out there was just kind of dump the puck in and hope something would happen, hope the puck would come to him or something like that. And it just kind of looked like, what Cole looked like in those couple games before he scored 50 there, where he was just kind of double clutching things and didn't really look like himself. I think he needs to kind of get back into the swing of things a little bit, find a way to, move guys around and get him open on some better looks there. If we can get him open into a position where he can kind of skate, use his hands, use his shot, obviously, Suzuki needs to find him in open ice. Slavkovsky needs to use his body to get himself open and get a passing lane going there. But if those guys can get themselves open for offensive opportunities 5-on-5, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the Buffalo Sabres, especially if our bottom six guys are also playing the way that they have been in the past 7 games in this first round series. If we can get all of those lines rolling as a well-oiled machine there, I don't really see the Buffalo Sabres having the ability to shut down this team. I think our offensive ability has been shown throughout the entire season of how lethal this team can be offensively when they're actually going and playing the way that they want to play. And if we can find a way to get back to that gear and play the way that we know how to play offensively, I don't really see Buffalo being able to handle us for a full 7-game series. That being said, though, of course, as I mentioned before, Buffalo is a very strong team. They've got a very deep lineup as well. They got a lot of guys who are very hungry for a deep playoff run. They haven't been in the playoffs for a very long time. There's an inexperience factor with that as well. But the Canadians are inexperienced just as much, if I had to say. So it's really a toss up in a lot of ways. But we need to be continuing to play well defensively. Jakub Dobeš is playing phenomenally for us right now, but we need to be able to defend well and find ways to shut down their guys just as well as Tampa was shutting down our guys. We did a great job shutting down Kucherov and some of those guys in the first round. We need to kind of translate that out to guys like Tage Thompson and Alex Tuck and Josh Doan, like all of those kind of guys. If we're able to to put pressure on those guys and make them feel the pressure of the moment while simultaneously being strong in the forecheck and getting our lines going, I think it'll be a really strong series for us, and I think we'll be able to come out on top there. So that's pretty much my big takes there. Is I think the biggest thing that the Canadians were lacking, as I just mentioned, in the first round, is the lack of offensive production from our top guys. Caulfield, Suzuki, Slavkovsky, post game 1, right? If we can get those guys going on the power play, on 5-on-5, all of that kind of stuff, if we can get those guys moving a little bit better, finding some open area and getting some chances on the net, that's going to be a huge boost to our team going forward. It'll take a little bit of pressure off of the rest of the team, for better or worse, really, but it'll take some pressure off of everybody else to make things happen there. And I think that'll be definitely something that will propel us into the third round there. So the biggest thing, get our top guys going, get the whole four lines going on forecheck, finding open ice, and putting shots on net, pushing the pressure onto Buffalo as much as possible. And at the same time, we need to continue to be responsible defensively, disciplined defensively, all that kind of stuff. Shut down their guys, make them feel the pressure of the moment in this second round series here. If we're able to be strong defensively while also being heavy on the forecheck, getting shots on net, and getting our top guys going, it's going to be a good series for the Canadians, and they will find a win there. So that is pretty much all of my takes on that one. I mean, obviously, everything remains to be seen. It'll be interesting to see how things shake out when all is said and done, but I'm very excited to watch this series. It's going to be a very exciting one. Just from a non-biased perspective, it'll be really cool that, it's a really cool fact that one of the Montreal Canadiens or the Buffalo Sabres is guaranteed a trip into the conference finals there, which neither of those teams have been in the conference finals for a little while, especially not in front of, a home crowd that's completely full in a non-COVID year. So it'll be a very exciting series. I think I expect this one to be this series of the second round, much like the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Montreal Canadiens were the series of the first round, the must-watch games or whatever. This is going to be very similar to that, I think, and I'm very excited to watch this series go all the way here. So my prediction at the end of the day, I think the Montreal Canadiens will get a win in 6 games. They'll get the win on home ice to do it in 6 there. Let me know what you think in the comments, what you think is going to happen there. What are the keys to the game for Montreal, or even Buffalo, if you're a Buffalo fan as well, what you think Buffalo needs to do to get this win here. But those are my big keys here, what I think the Montreal Canadiens are going to be able to do. I think they'll find a way, they'll get their guys going, and they'll get a win in 6 games there. So let me know again what you think in the comments here. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will catch you after game 1 of the second round against the Buffalo Sabres in Buffalo on Wednesday night.